life into his art, and I think that's something I like genuinely admire about this show, is that he used writing this show and his art to cope with his real life problems, and I think that's really, really cool because it made for something beautiful.
Yeah.
And then we get into episode 6 where there are some problems with the players, and Jamie Tart refuses to train, so Ted turns to this new guy named Denny Rojas.
Oh yeah.
Who's a very silly, goofy.
Just the same as Ted.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Pretty much, just like the same as Ted.
He never did anything wrong.
In a Spanish soccer player kind of way. And his quote is, "Football is life."
Because it's like all of those soccer players are so mean to each other all the time, like on the field and in the locker room. And then Danny Rojas comes and
brings
it's just
very
like,
good energy to the team.
Yeah, it's like when the entire team started turning around, honestly.
Yeah. And then, there's a funny part that I really like. And it's just more like American, like, just Jason Sudeikis puts so many, like, American sports analogies into the show that I just love. And when I watched it, I caught every single one of them just because I grew up a sports fan.
I probably didn't. There's probably so many references I missed.
There was a part in that episode where once Jamie refuses to train, he brings in Danny Rojas, and they're in the locker room, and he's sitting there, and he's not dressing up for practice. And Ted goes off on him, and he's like, "Practice? Like, you talking about practice? You talking about practice?"
Yeah.
So that is a quote from Allen Iverson.
I don't know who that
is. A basketball player back in like early 2000s. I'm pretty sure, early 2000s or late 90s. And he went off on a reporter because they were getting upset with him for not going to practice. And so like the whole thing was, we talk about practice. And that was really, as soon as I saw that, I was like, oh my God, like that's crazy.
Dang.
But yeah.
It makes the show so interesting.
Yeah. Really throws in some American sports. We love American sports. But yeah, and that was a big deal. So after that whole thing, Jamie ends up leaving the club. That was their star player. And so now they're like, what do we do now?
But then it just sparks the whole conversation between like talent and sportsmanship. Because like sports team I've been on, our best player has just been a horrible person.
Yeah.
And it's like
drags the whole team down.
Yeah, and it makes us lose. And so it's just like you don't know what to do in that situation.
And that's like
they went through.
Jason Sudeikis wrote his character Ted Lasso to be like such like a not like a Nick Saban all about winning. Like he wants to just have fun. Like he's just like, we're having fun. And so in episode 7, Rebecca celebrates her first full year as a divorcee. Her and Keely are like girl besties, and they have a lot of fun with that. And Roy, Kent, and Keely, Jamie's ex-girlfriend Keely, and one of Jamie's fellow players end up kissing.
They hit it off.
Yeah.
It was very unexpected.
Yeah, but I think they're super cute too.
As soon as I saw it, I was like, I like that. That's gonna be good.
Yeah. But yeah, and then that's pretty much it for episode 7.
Yeah.
In episode 8, Ted and Roy both have relationship problems, and Roy's like going through problems with his new, I don't know if they're like officially dating at this point. New girl. Yeah. Pretty much. And then Ted is having problems with his
full-on
divorce issue, and it's pretty sad watching that happen. He makes it, and the soundtrack with that just rips me apart. Anyway, so Ted consults these group of guys that he works with, one of them being Nate and his best friend from Texas, who's also assistant coach for the team, Beard. Coach Beard. Great character.
He was just like a side character for season 1.
Yeah.
Like just for
he
like
really
funny
comes back
bits.
in season 2.
Yeah, but just in season 1, like honestly, him and Nathan are just there for like little funny tidbits.
Yeah.
But Nathan was my favorite character part of the first season.
Yeah.
I
think he was like
loved
everybody's
him.
like he's just a really
and they did that for a reason.
Yeah. So, yeah, he consults his Diamond Dogs group, which is just like 3 group of guys in a room just talking about it.
And my favorite part about that is like those guys, other than like Ted and Beard, would never act like that.
No.
And then somehow, that's like what makes it so funny, is that Ted managed to like break all these guys down and have them like barking in a coach's room.
Yeah.
It's so funny.
I love that. Sometimes I wish I had my own Diamond Dogs group.
You do.
I do.
Yeah, you could make it.
I really do. So yeah, that's episode 8, and then episode 9 and 10, the final episodes of season 1, are where it really starts to get into it. In episode 9, there was a big plot change where Rebecca finally reveals the truth to Ted about how she's been plotting against him.
Because Rebecca is finally like opened up, and you see her starting to become a nicer person.
Yeah, because she starts to.
She
Ted
feels
is
guilt.
Ted has changed her. She started to feel like guilt for once, and like
So
with
she
all this
finally breaks
stuff of
down.
her and her ex, she's just tired of being like mad at people all the time and realizes
It's
like,
exhausting.
yeah, it's that's one thing you really learn from the show. Like,
yes, the lessons I learned from this show.
for real,
is
like
crazy.
it's if you're just angry at people all the time, just in like trying to plot against people or just upset at the world, it gets way more exhausting. It's a lot easier to smile than it is to frown.
Yes.
Like that's what I learned from the show. It's like a lot easier to smile. But yeah, and so Rebecca apologizes to Ted, and you're like the whole episode you're wondering about how he was gonna take it, and he just like obviously just takes it so well. He's like, and that's okay, and like gives her a hug, and she's like so confused by it, like she feels so bad, like anybody else would. Like she's done so many things to plot against him, and he takes it so well, and he's like, it's okay. He's just worried about where we go from there. He's like, what are we gonna do next? Let's move on from this. And so I love that, because I was waiting the whole season for them to become friends, because they were buddies, you know. And yeah, so Ted takes it very well, and that's pretty much the biggest plot for episode 9. And then the final episode, it goes down, and one main thing I really want to focus on in this last one, there were so many things that happened, but the biggest one for me was the ending where they play their final game for relegation in the Premier League. And if you don't know what relegation is, I'm just going to give a quick spiel on what it is.
I didn't know what it was.
Yeah, basically it's when a Division 1 team loses so many games in a row that if they lose a certain amount of games, they get relegated into the league below them.
And I don't think that happens in America. They said that doesn't happen.
No, not with any sports in America. No. Yeah, and I think that's pretty cool. But anyway, FC Richmond was looking at relegation, and they needed to win this one game, and they play their former club. They play Manchester City, which is the team that Jamie Tart went to. So it's kind of like a...
Yeah, so we see all the characters back together again, which is good.
Yeah.
But in a bad context.
In a really bad way, yeah. And so the episode ends with them tied, and they're about to win, and then Jamie Tart goes in and scores a goal against his former club, which is pretty devastating.
And I feel bad, but it just like made me hate him in the moment. Even though like he was kind of a bad person, but it was just like he was just trying to win. He didn't do anything wrong.
Yeah.
It was just very sad in the moment.
Yeah, Jamie's got a lot of issues on his own, so.
Yeah, because wasn't that the episode where like his dad yelled at him, and then that's when like Ted saw that, so it just makes you sympathize with him even more.
Yeah, when his dad goes into the locker room. Get him.
I know.
What are you doing? But yeah.
And so it's like season 1. I don't know if that like left us on a cliffhanger.
Oh yeah, definitely.
What was the last one? What was like the last scene? I can't remember. Like.
I think it was just like the end of the episode where.
Or it was like, what happens to the team now?
They socked them in the face. Yeah, it was like basically like we're getting relegated, and Ted goes back in there to Rebecca and was like, I totally understand. Like.
If you want to fire me,
yeah. He was like, I totally understand if you want to fire me. You brought me in as a new coach, and all I've done is get your team relegated. And she was like,
and then she becomes the bigger person.
She was like, Ted, you're not going anywhere. Like if you're part of this team now, if we're gonna fix it, we're gonna fix it like with you together.
That's like the big aha. Rebecca's a good person.
It's like
moment.
yay.
Yeah.
And then it just like cuts right into season 2.
Yeah.
But
happy moment.
So that's season 1 for you.
season 1, episode 1 of our podcast. And so the next one will be about season 2, the last season that we have right now. Nice job.